Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Brother Minister Cepeda. If you guys are new to the channel, please courtesy me by going to my website at treeoflifeoutreach.com. This is a holistic ministry that I have established for the purpose of nourishing all human beings, the mind, the body, and the spirit of all human beings. So do me a courtesy, visit my website, familiarize yourself with the bio, and even if the bio doesn't speak to you directly with regards to some of the specifics in which it contains, nevertheless, it is a true inspiration story. So whether it fits your way of life and your views of life or not, please pass it on to someone that you know can benefit from a good old-fashioned word and story of encouragement, okay? So thanks for tuning in today, guys. Hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment, and I'm going to jump right into this video, okay? I made a video the other day where I was challenging my white brothers and sisters to step up to the plate and pointing out to them with regards to how their silence speaks very loudly. And I was challenging them to step up to the plate with regards to confronting all of the inequalities that exist and that the vast majority of my white brothers and sisters are aware of. They know it, and they have been sitting on the fence for whatever reasons and not really pushing this agenda as hard and as consistent and as precisely as they could, but instead just kind of lay back and just kind of let the government and let society kind of steer its own way and only come out when there is a march or a tragic moment in the streets. Now, even though they only come out during that times, we as black people, we really appreciate that. We as learned black people know that in order for us to get any substantial results, it's going to have to be the our white brothers and sisters joining in with us to really push this agenda. Other than that, we'll be considered what the government has always considered us as, basically just disgruntled and all some of the other stereotypes that they have shot our way in times past as well as this current moment. So in that video, I was talking about the collective trauma of my white brothers and sisters' psyche, of them having been lied to, and the trauma of the collective heart and soul of my black brothers and sisters who have been lied to in a different way, but by the same enemy, which is government. As we all know, government means governmentality. That's what governmental mean. These people have been established to govern our mentality, to tell us what to think, to tell us what to feel, to tell us what to believe, how we should behave, and that is the meaning of the word government. So for those of us who are inside the know and decided that we're going to take this to a whole new level, the time has come. The time is at hand now. So I called out my white brothers and sisters and said, hey man, we're going to exclude my white brothers and sisters who are on one page, who if they die and come back 1,000 times, they're just going to be racist to the core. That's just the way that is. So we're not even addressing them. By the same token, we got some of my black brothers and sisters who, if they die and come back 1,000 times, they're still not just going to be a good representation of what black people stand for. They may be decide that no matter what, they're going to do their drugs. No matter what, they're not going to be good parents, whatever. So for those group of my white brothers and sisters and those group of my black brothers and sisters, we're going to exclude them right off the bat from this conversation. We're also going to exclude my black brothers and sisters who have always sought to be the best that they can be. They've always worked hard. They've always been stand-up citizens. They, follow the law and different things of that nature. Stand-up model citizens, we're also going to exclude them. I'll explain why here in just a bit. On the other end of this topic, we're going to also exclude my white brothers and sisters who have always been against racism, have always been against the mistreatment of any human being, particularly those who were in slavery and bondage for over 310 years. There have always been some of my white brothers and sisters who stood up against that and did as best they could to address that head on, in accordance to what their situation and circumstances allowed them to do. And some of them pushed a barrier with regards to what they were actually allowed to do, whether it was on the Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad, and before then and since then. So we're going to exclude those two categories from both of these, from both of these races from this particular for this particular topic. Okay, and I'll get into that as previously stated in just a moment. Now, on the part one, which is essentially a part one, although this is not going to be termed a part two. On part one, the video is called "The Silence of the White Voice is Extremely Loud." The silence, and I called out my white brothers and sisters for being so silent, for being in this state to where they know these things are wrong, but for whatever reasons, fear of actually losing their lives, lynch mob coming at them, fear of them losing their jobs or social standings, fear of their businesses being targeted, what have you. These people have decided that for those reasons, as well as their uncertainty of what would happen if they really have to really compete against the black people, the black man, and what have you in the marketplace. What would really happen? Because if whether we want to admit it or not, the facts is that because you are born white, you are born with certain privileges that if you're not white, then you are not afforded those privileges. And we don't have to get into what they are, because if I have to lay out to you exactly what they are, this video ain't for you, no way. And if I had to lay it out for you, then you ain't gonna get it to begin with. So we're just gonna skip that, because we all know. So those are my white brothers and sisters who are in this, what we call the middle of the white collective, not the ones who are going to be racist, not the ones who've already decided that it's wrong and they've been doing stuff, actively participating in the abolishing it. We're talking about those in the middle. And again, so not my black brothers and sisters who, no matter what, they're going to be, they're going to have behaviors and conduct that's undesirable for black people, and I'm trying to term a good word to reference that behavior. I'll just say very unconstructive behavior, and we all know what that is, and I don't have to explain that to you. If I do have to explain that to you, then this ain't for you. So again, we're talking about the middle of those guys who, for these following reasons, have decided they're kind of unsure of themselves, because what happens if they really do have to be dependent on a job and really have to be on time? What if they really do have to pay child support consistently with it coming out of their check? What if they really do have to put down their guns and deal with things without violence or without vulgar language and these things? So I got some brothers and sisters who are in the middle of this of the apex, if you will, of the black collective, who they are uncertain about what can happen if they actually move forward. And my point to both of these middle groups is that I believe that you can make it. I believe that we are human beings. We are all endowed with the ability to tap into a power that transcends us as men, as women, as Republicans, as Democrats, as whites, as blacks, as gays or straights. There is a power that we have the ability to tap into that lies within us. It's within us. Oftentimes it's been laying dormant, but if we access it, then there's nothing we cannot do. There's absolutely nothing we cannot achieve. There's nothing we cannot be. The only limits that we have is the one that we place on ourselves, and the ones that we have allowed others to convince us into placing on ourselves. So for those two groups, we should be moving forward. I say now is the time. The stage is set. The moment is right. We got a whole bunch of things going on that if we are smart, if we are thoughtful, but more importantly, if we are united, we can change this world for the better. Because unlike the religion that they stole from Christ, they hijacked that religion and bred us and taught us into believing that the end has already been predetermined. And I disagree with that. It's my own personal philosophical belief, but it is based on years, decades of study, research, cross-referencing, refinement of research, actual real life studies and practices that I have engaged in myself, that I have informed and instructed hundreds of clients. So it's not just me having a philosophical view that's just based it solely on a philosophical view. So I believe that everything is set for us to move forward and change this world for the better, and not buy into the book of Revelations that we've been taught, so that when the government decides to go haywire, and the less than 1% starts really making these money grabs and these power grabs during times such as this, the pandemic and whatnot, all of us that are in the know, we know this pandemic was just a power grab and a money grab. So that when they shut this thing down and then they open it back up, all the small businesses are done. The only businesses that can survive is a big business who are already getting financial handouts and they're already in the bed with the government to begin with, or the little moms and pop stores who have to take out massive loans, which puts them in debt and in the bed with the government forever. Anybody else is wiped out. So it's a money grab, it's a power grab, because now we can tell y'all when to go to bed, when to get up, when you can go to the store, when you have to put a mask on your face, when you can't go to the park, and so forth and so on. So those of us that are inside the know are already familiar with the fact that it's a money grab and a power grab to begin with. But I'm saying the future has not been written. The outcome has not been predetermined. It's up to us. And if we are united, we can change this world, and we can see it for what it has the potential to actually be in. It's not the beginning of the end, but it can be. But it also cannot be the beginning of the end, but rather simply the end of the beginning. See, it don't have to be the beginning of the end. This is what they want us to believe. Because if we put our hearts, if we put our thoughts, if we put our energies and our beliefs into the fact that it's the beginning of the end, then most people are just going to say, well, if it's the end, why should they even try? Why should they put forth? They might as well sit and twiddle their thumb and get drunk and pay some bills and just get ready to die, or sit around and wait for the world to blow up. If they really, really believe that this is the beginning of the end, then that's the approach that people are going to take, either consciously or subconsciously. So it's up to us to realize that it's not the beginning of the end, but it is the end of the beginning. The beginning, which was the time that, referencing the time that when they began to brainwash all of humanity and tell this group of people that, hey, you're better than that group of people. And then they put in a structured system and things that one can actually see with their eyes to continue to prop up that myth, to prop up that lie. And then they tell this group of people, no, you're less than them. And then they do the same thing with regards to putting things in people's faces and certain systems to highlight that and show that, to where this people believe they better and this people believe that they're always just going to be down. And when the time comes, they walk around and smack everybody in the mouth. Watch part one to the video, and you can see how I made reference to the fact that, for example, when this pandemic spread, they didn't say all the black businesses that can't pay their bills are going out of business. They didn't say that. They said all the businesses are going out are going under. So all this stuff that they fed you about you being a superior race and you being privileged was just a bunch of baloney to get you divided and to keep looking at the other guy while this guy smacks you in the mouth. They did not, when the pandemic hit, they shut everybody down. And they, as previously mentioned, I say this 1,000 times, they sent Larry Hoover to jail. They sent Martha Stewart to jail. They killed JFK. They killed Martin Luther King. Now, even though Martha White went to penitentiary for a very brief amount of time, and Larry Hoover has been there for almost 40 years and still has another 40 left. There's no comparison with regards to that, but that does make a good point of reference. Is this lady, Martha Stewart. Martha Stewart was considered to be good, clean, wholesome, stand up, straight vanilla, no frills, no thrills, just what you see is what you get. A good, clean, honest, law-abiding, tax-paying citizen who was white. And when they decided that they wanted to ramshack her, they smacked her in the mouth. And they killed JFK and Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. So at the end of the day, all this stuff that they've been telling you guys about you being this and about you being so much better, when it all goes down, they smack you in the mouth too. So this is why we must unite. Please, if you haven't watched my video, The Loudness of White Silence, I'm paraphrasing there. Watch it, and I'm going to move on from that particular part of this discussion because all that is kind of bullet pointed in that particular video. So one of the things I was doing in that particular video is I was challenging my white brothers and sisters to stand up and make their voices heard, to lay out cemented and fossilized strategies, game plans, tactics, goals, achievement dates for these goals, both short and long term, to develop the grassroots infrastructure that's necessary to abolish slavery. To abolish racism. This can be done. So I challenge my white brothers and sisters while at the same time giving them credit for coming out when they do come out, but letting them know it's not enough to be not racist. You have to do more. You can't be in the middle of this thing anymore. You cannot be, it's not good enough to just be not racist. You have to be all out anti-racist. And that's what we're calling for. And that's what I challenge my white brothers and sisters to do, while again encouraging them to say, hey man, look, we appreciate y'all for coming out whenever there's a big event, a big thing that grips America as a whole. We appreciate that, we value that, but we need you guys to take this back to your schools, to your churches, to your grocery stores, to your political votes and things like this. And this is what we need. Now, what fathered this video is the fact that while watching, updates, and I know the media is skewed, but that doesn't discourage one for at least getting a view on what they are saying is going on, even though a lot of it is fabricated. There's misinformation, there's false information, there's disinformation. But so we have to be able to navigate that. We have to be able to know what kind of slant they're putting on this different stuff. So just after watching the news, it's very encouraging for me to, again, as I mentioned in the previously addressed video, when I saw those crowds out there, I saw more of my white brothers and sisters out there than I've ever seen before. And we've seen them out there doing the Rodney King video, and we saw them out there doing some other videos. Saw them on video doing some other times when it was crisis and things were getting real hectic, and they were standing up, with us and my other black brothers and sisters in the black community, saying, hey, look, this is wrong. We have to address this. And they came out and supported us. But at this time, it was a lot more than ever before. And I know that's because you have to consider the fact that the overall crowds was a lot more. I'm aware of that as well. But that doesn't change the fact that there was still, even if you did a per capita counting, I'm willing to bet you that there were more whites that ever came out than ever before, and not just based on sheer numbers, but again, just a per capita breakdown. And that was very encouraging. What's even more encouraging is the steps that are being recommended and suggested. Steps to put restrictions, or to put strings, for search of a better word, to have strings attached to all of these different city, state and local police officers just getting their money. Because as you know, if you pay taxes, you pay their checks. Their checks don't come from no boss like a person who goes to work. Their checks come from a company or a boss. That's not how police officers and law enforcement gets paid, as we all know. They get paid from that stuff that comes out of our taxes that's called tax. That's what pays the police force. So now we have this push to say, hey man, we're not going to just give y'all money anymore. You guys are going to have to meet a certain standard. You guys are going to have to keep y'all the different things that show anything like racist behavior. Y'all going to have to keep that to a minimum. And if it's over that, we're just gonna cut the amount of money we give y'all, or we're just gonna defund y'all altogether. If your police station closed, then so be it. You can't go to work and treat your boss crappy, and you'll be fired. You won't get no paycheck no more. And we are their bosses. All of us United States taxpayers. We're their bosses. So for them to treat us like this is tantamount to you going to work and treating your boss a certain way. And you already know how that will work out for you. So I'm very encouraged by that. I'm also encouraged by the fact that there's even a push by some to say, let's just defund them altogether. How about we just defund them and come up with a whole nother way in order to keep law and order? Very encouraging, very inspiring, very uplifting and hopeful. So where am I going with this? I'm going right here with that. The only reason these changes are being taken place or even being considered is because my white brothers and sisters joined the fight. See that? See what happens? With just a little bit of unity, see how we can change things? We don't have to sit on a sideline and suck on it. We have the power. But it's in unity. And we have to wake up to this fact that we must all stand together. Because if we don't stand together, we're going to hang separately. When they get finished hanging the rest of the red men, they're going to come after the yellow men, and the black men, the brown men. And then finally they're going to get the white men. They're going to leave them for last. Because those are the ones who are going to more than likely just sit back and say, well, you know what, we're superior anyway. Yeah, we on the team of the one who's knocking everybody off. The team that's hanging everybody, that's the ones we're part of that team. And then when they pull the curtain back, and begin to see, you know what? Guess what? The emperor don't have no clothes on. And when the emperor is coming right at them to say, hey man, we appreciate you guys' support, go ahead and put your neck in the noose. That's the less than 1% at the top who don't care about none of us. And so when we unite like this, it is a beautiful thing. They are trembling in their boots because my white brothers and sisters have joined the fight. You guys just don't realize, well, correction. Kind of a correction. But you guys don't realize the power that y'all hold as a collective. And unfortunately, when you guys as a collective do realize the power that y'all hold, you guys have been brainwashed and taught to wield that power in ways that said, no, we don't want no blacks voting. Or well, they gotta vote. Well, if they go to jail X amount of time, they can't vote no more after that. Well, yeah, we want a war on crime. We want a war on drugs. We want to do all this stuff. You guys have been convinced to go down those type of paths with the power that y'all wield. And then, but the good thing about that is you guys are starting to wake up and realize, hey, wait a minute, man. Where is this really getting me and my family? You can see that in all of your white privilege, guess what? You and your wife have to break your backs to work and pay bills. You and your wife miss spending that quality time with your kids because both of y'all work, and then on the weekend, you're really too tired to really do nothing for the kids. And when you do something with them, you're basically just robots because you're so tired and you're so drained. You're basically just going through the motions. You guys are starting to wake up and smell the coffee and say, wait a minute, I thought me being superior, I supposed to be more going on for me than this. Why do I have to close my shop just like everybody else? Why they got my 15 and 17 year olds out there being affected and infected by the same mental, psychological, social, emotional diseases as the people who's supposed to be beneath us? What has it gotten us? Hadn't gotten us nothing. Well, you know what? It's time to unite. And I salute you guys. I salute you guys. I commend you guys. And I compliment you guys. It's an incredible feat. And this can be the start of something big. Now, as we know, it's already the start of something big. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not using that term loosely when I say something big. I'm using it very stringently, very sternly. I'm using it. It's being very distilled when I use it. This can be the start of something big. And the changes are great. I mean, what a way to tell police officer, what a way to tell your subordinates. They take an oath to say that they will protect and what? Serve us. That's when you go to a restaurant, that waiter and that waitress, she comes up to serve you. There's no difference. There's no ambiguity in the oath that they take. They took an oath with their hand on the Bible and said that they would protect and serve us. And look what they do to us. That's just like when you go to your job. You don't even take an oath with your hand on the Bible or nothing, but you do agree, yeah, this is the work I'm going to do. Yeah, I'm going to be on time. These are the hours I'm going to work. You can't just get in the middle of the stream and change that up. You be fired before the fire even gets started. So it's beautiful for us to say, hey man, look, Jack, this is what time it is with y'all. We're not going to sit back and wait on you to police yourself. We through with it because we're able to see that the crime, the drugs, the whole ball of wax when it comes to sadness and madness and depression, it hasn't behooved my white brothers and sisters not at all, given that they have always been propped up and taught to believe that they're better. Well, if you're better, how come you suffering the same ailments as my black brothers and sisters? And when I say my black brothers and sisters, just as a quick reference point, I'm specifically talking about my black brothers and sisters, but I'm also talking about all non-whites. See, because they brainwash each and every last race of people on this planet. And in order for them to pull it off, and this is why my white brothers and sisters have so much power in their voices, because in order for them to pull it off, this less than 1% at the top, in order for them to pull it off, it was solely and remains solely contingent. The apex of it all, the foundation of it all, it is built on the white collective. If that, it's like anything else. If you take the legs off of a table, you don't have to wonder what's going to happen to it. If you build strong legs on a table, you don't have to wonder what's going to happen to it. So it's always been centered around my white brothers and sisters. So in order for us to perpetrate this fraud of these people being inferior and these people being superior, we have to do an excellent brainwashing on this group of people that we are going to establish or that we're going to promote falsely as being superior. So they went out of their way to put my black brothers and sisters down, not just for the sole sake of putting them down, although that was it as well, but it was also more about showing to my white brothers and sisters things that they could actually see with their own two eyes that would convince them and do a psyops, a psychological operation on them to convince them that they were better. Because it's easy to convince somebody that they're better than someone when you is putting these people in houses and plush beds and fresh fruit, warm water, clean environments, and you constantly let them see the other people living in squalor. It's easy to convince them that they're superior. So my white brothers and sisters have been brainwashed to think a certain way this way, and my black brothers and sisters have been brainwashed to think a certain way that way. And both ways is a lie. If you are superior than someone, it's because you are superior than someone, not because of your skin. As Martin Luther King would say, you judge a man by the contents of his character. Now, if your character is superior than the next guy's character, then so be it. But your character don't have anything to do with your skin. If you are faster or superior than someone on the track or in the pool or on the court or in math, it's because you, not because of your skin. So it's very, very almost blissful like to see my white brothers and sisters bringing their voice to the table, which ultimately has forced these politicians to come out and say, hey man, this whole thing falls apart if we get if this middle part of white society, this middle part of white collective society decides that they're going to speak out against this, they're going to stand up for that, they know it could all fall apart like a house of cards. So now you have all these politicians all of a sudden saying, well, yeah, let's regulate their funding. Yeah, let's defund them in their entirety. Yeah, this was wrong, and that's... You have the politicians going in on that. Why they ain't been going in on it all the time? It's been shootings of black people. It's been mistreatment of black people. And white people have always came out to some degree in numbers. But now you have them taking another step by them saying, hey, look, man, nope. This ain't good enough. We're taking a grassroots approach to address this and to abolish this in every area of our lives. In our politics, in our religions, in our workplaces, in our schools, in economics. The systemic racism is being targeted. And what's steering and pinpointing that targeting is the fact that my white brothers and sisters have joined the fight. And again, I compliment you, I celebrate you, and I salute you. Because your voice is required. If not, they'll just continue to do little things to appease my black brothers and sisters, or they will continue to do things to sweep it under the rugs, or switch the conversation around and change the narrative and all these little things that they do, but they can't do that. They need you guys. They need you guys to be on board, either assertively or passively, which means you just kind of go along to get along and just go out and march when you feel like it's appropriate to march, but never really take a hard-nosed approach, which it appears as though my white brothers and sisters are doing. Now, what we need to do is keep our foot on the pedal, or if you prefer, keep our foot on their throat. Don't let them off the hook. Don't let them slime and wiggle their way back to, okay, well, give us another 2 or 3 years. We got legislation coming down the pipe in 2024 that's going, nope, don't go for the slip move. We must stay in the moment and drive this car and don't let the wheels fall off. Because if you ever trust a politician, you put yourself at the risk of great peril. So we're not going to take their words. Let us not take their words. Let my white brothers and sisters continue to be the voice that all of humanity needs. You guys have the power. You guys have the infrastructure. You guys have the finances, the resources. And more than anything, you have that position upon which their whole system is built on. They couldn't make slaves without first convincing you that you were superior. You were high enough. You deserve slaves. Look at you. Look at your race. Look at how you look. Look at the great things you've built. Look at all the countries and continents you've conquered. You are superior. They had to build you up in the first place. And as a result, as previously stated, my white brothers and sisters are collectively are traumatized. There's a great deal of internal trauma and a great deal of internal suffering that's caused by these lies that they have fed y'all. Because when you guys look in the mirror, not individually, but collectively, when you look in the mirror and you can honestly say to yourself, man, the white race is, They say we the moral authority and we're the most intelligent race of people and we're the strongest and we're the wisest. We're the leaders. Well, then if you're all of that, then you got to take responsibility for everything that's jacked up on this planet. You got to take responsibility for it. And at some point you woke up and realized, hey man, I'm not saying that you're not those things. We all have the potential to be those things, all of us as human beings. But when you look at yourselves collectively and the history of what you guys have done and the history and what you guys are doing currently, it causes you guys to have a great internal suffering. Because you hold yourself and project and you purported and suppose and is touted as being all these things that you have not been living up to. So that's why I say the reparations, financial is strictly for my black brothers and sisters, but the reparations of love, the reparations of soul and mind and spirit, all these things must be healed. And I have a feeling that it can be healed right along this path that we currently, I'm not going to say we're on, but we have the potential to be on. Because the politicians and the powers that be are shivering in their boots. Long as it was black people, brown people, yellow people, red people, okay, whatever. We'll deal with them. We'll give them this. We'll pacify them with that. But nothing. No real change. The moment my white brothers and sisters decided to say, hey man, look, we ain't just marching. We're through with this. We're done with this, and we're taking full aim at destroying it in every area of life. It's even overseas. Why? Mr. Floyd, peace and blessing be upon his soul. Is it because of Mr. Floyd? No. If that's the case, it would have been about Trayvon Martin. He was a teenager. It's not about Mr. Floyd. It's about the fact that my white brothers and sisters have joined in and they done influenced people in China. They rioting all over the world against police because police all over the world has been dictating to people and telling people how they supposed to live as a free, sovereign human being. You don't have the right to tell me how to live. And I don't have the right to tell you how to live. As long as neither one of us is bothering each other, we're not threatening to bother each other, we're not committing harm to each other's property, who cares if you that's your right to ride your bike with your motorcycle without a helmet if you want. You have the right to sell oranges on the street corner if you want. You have the right to do drugs if you want. That's your body. So people have just been led to this point of, you know what? Yeah, police really exceeded their boundaries. And guess what? They've exceeded them for quite some time in various amount of ways. And people have been encouraged to speak up and now protest all over the globe again. Salute to my white brothers and sisters who came out and added their voices to this, who championed this cause with their voices. Because again, I think the reason is most of you guys realize that with all this privilege that that you guys are purportedly to have and be qualified for, you don't reap any benefits of it. Farmers are going out of work. They taking in my white brothers and sisters' land all across the South. My white brothers and sisters, just like my black brothers and sisters, they own businesses and was just, even though they own them businesses, they were living paycheck to paycheck, just trying to keep the business established because it was a business handed to them by their father, and they want to honor that and try to build it up in some kind of way and get it better so it can be better when they pass it off to their kids. These people worked hard, black and white, and they all got smacked in the mouth. So we need to stay the course, guys. Do not let these clowns off the hook. That's what they are, clowns. but they have played us as if we were the clowns. And they did that by us allowing them to. But this is the potential to be a new day. If we keep our pedal to the metal, stay focused. No matter what come, no matter what they say, the old saying is, if you can take it, you can make it. So no matter what come, we are not taking our foot off the pedal. My white brothers and sisters, do not go for the okie doke. Well, yeah, we got some legislation coming, and yeah, there's a bill set to be passed. All we need to do is go for a vote. Now, why don't you guys just go home and settle back down, and we'll let y'all know how this vote turns out in January. Well, there's going to be some new politicians on the docket. He swore this and he vowed that. Don't go for it. We've all watched that movie more than several times, and we all know how it ends. So we need to stay the course. We need to be vigilant also. Here's something that's important. We need to be vigilant in our watchfulness of these people who like to refer to themselves as being our government. We need to be vigilant and watchful of these guys, because here's the thing. One thing that a ruthless, inconsiderate, tyrant in control, the one thing that person wants more than anything else is more control. So let us not be naive. Let us not be bamboozled into thinking that, oh, that's all we had to do. We've added our voice to the fight, and now they're going to make changes, and they're going to make this, and these changes, even if there are some changes that, as they was saying on YouTube today, these changes can be effective within the next 30 days nationally. Even if they say something like that, and even if 30 days come and they actually implement them, do you trust that? So you trust that these people who have been determined to control, rule, and guide us like sheep for all of these years, all of a sudden they're just going to write up some papers and say, okay, look, it's all over, guys, you won. Is that what you think? I think not. I think you're sharper than that. But I know that it's going to require you and me and those like us to stay consistent and diligent in our watchfulness of them. Don't leave them no exit to where they can manipulate this no kind of way. Because here's the thing. Here's something we got to consider. What if in 30 days they implement all these changes, and then they have the secret societies, the secret contractors that they pay money to? These people could start some chaos in a whole different kind of area that's outside of racism. Maybe it's not racially centered at all. But then just create a whole bunch of violence to just take off, and then for them to be able to say, man, we tried to give y'all what y'all want. Y'all couldn't do it yourself, so now we got to bring the tanks in this time. Ain't no more. We ain't going to allow y'all to even riot or do nothing. We gave y'all what y'all want. All of this happened, even though it was provoked by them, even though they started it. This is how our government works, guys, and that may be a scenario that may be a bit far-fetched for a lot of you, but whether it's far-fetched or not, my point is we need to make sure that we're just not trusting them. Because again, a ruthless, treacherous, evil tyrant in a position of power, the only thing they want is more power. They ain't interested in giving that up. Not even a little bit. They want more. So we got to be watching these cats. We got to have them under the microscope all the time. Okay, what could be a possible angle that they're trying to pull on this? What's a possible scenario that they're trying to pull on that? We all know, for those of us who are inside the know, and I won't go down this particular rabbit hole doing this video, but I may circle back to it. We all know that Mr. Floyd, we know the truth about Mr. Floyd. Him and that police officer who had his knee on his neck and who, I'm going to say, killed him, they worked at the same strip club. Those guys were not strangers. So those of us who are inside the know, we know this information, and we know how the government intentionally pulled back and allowed the rioting to continue to escalate. You ain't never seen the police just close their police station and abandon their police station. So all of this stuff, we have to be able to think outside of what is just going on. We have to zoom into the big picture, because these people are brilliant in their deceptiveness. So we can't just see what's going on the surface. We need to be cautious, and we need to be what my mom, peace and blessings be upon her, used to always refer to as being an angler. You have to be an angler, is what she would always tell us. You can't see when somebody just coming down the pipe doing this, doing that, and it looks like this and it looks like that. You got to be able to see, well, what could be the angle on this? I wonder if that was the angle, how would that work out? So we need these people to what mainstream called conspiracy theorists. We need them, because they're going to sit down and analyze it. They're going to sit down and say, okay, well, look, be careful of this. Yeah, it looks good, and guess what? It might actually be good. But just consider this for the just in case. Have a backup plan for that, for the just in case. So do not take your foot off the pedal. Do not take them as their word, even if everything you are asking for is given to you. As a matter of fact, that should cause you to be even more suspicious. Those of us that are inside the know, we know that, hey, man, look, we know how ruthless tyrants who have power, we know how they operate. They don't just get to a point and give up their power. They'll go to their grave trying to maintain that power. Literally. They will not give that power up. So if all of a sudden they're just going to give us as people everything that we want, okay, we're going to definitely turn up our watchfulness and our abilities and implementation of assiduously breaking down and analyzing every single thing they do. And we're going to be proactive and not just reactive. So this is some of the things that we need to do. I may very well do a video about Mr. Floyd, although it's been Mr. Floyd's. I may do some information or video about Mr. Floyd's death, but you don't need me, not those of you who walk a path similar to the one that I walk in terms of questioning. Again, something my mom used to always say, may peace and blessings be upon her. Be a questioner. Can't just be an angler. Be a questioner. Question things. Why are you my friend? Why are you my enemy? Why did you say this? How come you didn't say that? Why is this like that? Why isn't it like that? Be a questioner. Don't just take my word for it. Do your own research / ask your own questions. So I may do a research about that, but a couple of things we do know that they work together at a strip club, and we do know that there has been a couple of strange occurrences involving this gentleman and Mr. Floyd. Mr. Floyd was also into the X-rated film industry, and we know that this gentleman who, the police officer who had his knee on his neck, they had a couple of strange occurrences earlier that day, I believe, or maybe it was earlier that week. So there are those, choosing my words very carefully here, there are some of those amongst us who believe that this whole thing has been orchestrated to begin with to bring forth a certain outcome of which we have not yet deciphered. But one thing we do know is we have to be on guard with these people. We have to be on guard because it's one of the things that they always typically do, or typically always, typically always, doesn't matter. One of the main tools, one of the main weaponry is the good old-fashioned Hegelian dialect, which is good old-fashioned problem, reaction, solution. They already have a certain solution on the table, so they need to create a certain kind of problem so that they can get a certain kind of reaction, and then they could present their solution. So we've seen what the problem was with Mr. Floyd's death. We've seen the reaction, and now there are those amongst us who is brainstorming philosophically, psychically, intuitively, prayerfully, trying to get ahead of the curve to see if there's a possible angle that they are seeking to, that they have on this, and what that angle could be if in fact there is an angle that the powers that be have on this. But either way, we need to stay vigilant. At this point, it seems as though we have them on the ropes with regards to us making some positive changes, at least superficially at this moment. And when I say superficially, I am using that term loosely, because I'm not necessarily talking about on the surface. I mean just superficially, as in this particular moment. It appears as though we can do some positive things. It appears as though my white brothers and sisters are genuinely in the fight, and that is what's making the difference with regards to bringing the politicians on board, and those across seas in other countries being willing to come out and protest in their own streets about their own different struggles against unfair treatment by the so-called authorities. So I'll prepare to close. Again, we want to monitor this situation and all of it, and all of the nuances of the situation, and we want to see how it all unfolds, obviously, but we also want to look at this and say we can use this as a platform to not only wipe out, or as a stepping stone and a springboard to not only wipe out racism in all of its different forms, but we can now venture out. We can begin to venture out and start changing the world in other areas, that if my white brothers and sisters join or lend their voices to these causes, we can get so much more positive and constructive things done. Whether it's feeding the homeless, we got almost a whole state, and that's a bit of an exaggeration, but the point of reference is very applicable. They got what they call them tent cities. There's a whole states, and there's whole blocks and blocks of homeless people just living on the street. I ain't say a block or two, just imagine that, blocks and blocks. So basically, the equivalent to you going to your downtown area, and the whole downtown is tents, people sleeping in their cars, no running water. This is what's happening in California. That's the largest, but they're happening all over in every 50 states, where the homeless get, and there's a section of the city sectioned off for them. So we can use our collective powers, our collective focus, to not just zero in on racism, even though we need to take one step at a time, but we can also begin to look at ways in which we can also begin to use this power in multiple areas. Because if not, the course that mankind is currently on is not sustainable. And we all know that. I think subconsciously, primarily the teachings that have been hijacked from Christ, having been hijacked, now telling us that since the 2,000 years from Christ's crucifixion, they've been telling us that the end is going to come and there's going to be fire and wars and famines and disasters and all this earthquakes, and we have bought into that for 2,000 years, and now it's become a self-fulfilling prophecy. This is why for example, if a woman, if a female get up every so often and check her breasts like the doctor tell her, checking her breasts all the time for some lumps in it, eventually she's more than likely going to find that. Whatever you look for, you can find. Now, this don't say be dumb and close your eyes and be blind. It just says don't give your attention to things that you know that you don't have no control of anyway. And if you don't have no control of it, it takes just as much energy for you to think positively than it does for you to think negatively. I heard the story one time as a kid. The guy was him and his wife had a beautiful house and they slept upstairs, and every night she would wake him up and have him go downstairs. Not literally every night, but just about every night she would wake him up and have him go downstairs, saying she thinks she heard a burglar. She thinks she heard a burglar. And then one night after so long, she woke her husband up. He went down there. It was a burglar. It was a burglar there. And he was taking the stuff, and the man said, "Oh, wait a minute! Before you leave, I'd like for my wife to come down here. She's been waiting to meet you for 20 years." So we got to be careful, man. We put our attention to this fact that, or this so-called fact that this is how the world's going to end. This is how it's all going to unfold. And I think that's been a trap to begin with. The future is not set. We have the opportunity to choose what comes and how it comes and what gets let go and what gets rebuilt. So I'll finish where I started, man. I hope this information was beneficial to you guys. I'm sure that if you put your hand on your heart, there's some nuggets here for you, and I can only hope that you received them. But I'll start where I finished, and that is by saluting, celebrating, commending, and complimenting the fact that my white brothers and sisters have joined the fight unequivocally and have taken the approach that, you know what, we're not just going to come out and riot. We're gonna put our intelligence, we're going to put our money where our mouth is, and we're going to attack this on all levels. So be encouraged to feel good about that. You guys are doing the right thing. Humanity needs you guys to do the right thing in order for this change to actually become real, and the powers that be need for you guys to stay out of it in order for them to maintain their power. So that's what I have for you guys. I start each and every video by requesting that if there's anyone new, go to the website, visit the website, be encouraged by the story. And then I end each and every video the same, which is two truths that I actually live my life by each and every day. One is, I don't know all of y'all, but I do love all of y'all. And that is as real can ever get. the second slash the other first, because there's no second, there are just two number ones. The other truth in which I live my life by is that if you are feeling bad, go out and make somebody else feel good and you'll feel better. If you're already feeling good, go out and make somebody else feel good and you'll go from feeling good to feeling phenomenal. That's just the way this thing works, guys. That's literally the way it works. The powers that be know this is how it works, and they have blindfolded us and have the vast majority of us using this truth in reverse. So when people feel bad, they go out and try to so-called steal some joy from someone else, or so-called project their negativity on someone else, and they may feel better for a few seconds, but right after that, they need to do the same thing over again, because they haven't faced the fact that that's not how it works. And when they do things like that, they are literally making themselves a bucket without a bottom. They can never get full of the love, the joy, the healing that they need, because they're in this dog chasing his tail mode, to where they just go out and try and project something onto someone else, instead of realizing that, hey, if I'm feeling bad, I can't help but to feel good if I go make somebody feel good. It's really self-explanatory, guys. And the same thing if you're feeling phenomenal. If you're already feeling good and you go out and you make somebody feel good, the goodness that you feel can only skyrocket that much more. So that's the way this thing works, guys. I appreciate you guys for turning in. Visit the website. Hit the subscribe button, like, and comment. I am Brother Minister Cepeda, and I will holler back again soon. Thanks, guys. Peace.